Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 149 of the FReality Podcast. It's time to fire up the engines to the hype train and get aboard as we discuss this week's top VR news. We're going to be talking about new leaked images of the next Oculus Quest. We have some news about VR Star Wars games such as Star Wars Squadrons and Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. We're going to be talking to our special guest, Zach from Zulubo Productions, about Vertigo and his experience with working with Valve.
Mike.
Zulubo, I got it wrong again, even though I asked him at the beginning how to pronounce it. Zulubo Productions. There you go. I got it right that time. And finally, Zimmer's got some new VR releases for you to look forward to next week. But for now, let me introduce you to the team, find out what's been the highlight of the week this week, and also let us know what you played in the chat so we can read out some of your highlights too. First up to the plate, this guy is half mad scientist, half VR gamer, but 100% rowdy. It's the one and only Rowdy VR. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm very excited for today's show. We have I think a lot to talk about, and a lot of like conspiracy theories that are gonna go around this episode, I think. But I've been doing great. Besides munching on the news this week, I've discovered potato waffles in Canada. So that I want to highlight that.
Wait, what? This is a potato. What? It's a waffle-shaped potato.
It's something else, that thing. Like I've discovered it in the UK when I was like there, I think the first time, because Carol took me there to a pub where they served that, but they don't have that in Belgium, at least not that I could find. And since I've been here in Canada, I all of a sudden in the shop I saw them in the store, and they were like winking at me and stuff. So I just went in there and I bought I think 3 packages of them. So my freezer is like full with potato waffles right now. It's so good. It's so good.
I love that because you're not playing that much VR right now. We've transitioned to just life experience. What was it last week? Some great crisis with your job. Right? Now it's potato waffles. Who knows what's going to happen next week? Yeah. You just never know with this guy.
Exactly.
So that's your highlight? Nice. Potato waffles are legit.
Sure. I mean, if we're going to talk about highlights, that is definitely the one.
Yeah, we need to reach out for them, sponsor the show. Bird's Eye Potato Waffles. But good to hear that you're okay. You're settling nicely into Canada.
Yeah, indeed. It's been the weather here has been great, so I've been trying to enjoy that a little bit as well. But I'm almost at a point that I can start recording stuff again. I'm thinking that with my next salary pay slip, I might be able to get the stuff that I still need in order to get stuff in order, and then hopefully I can get back on the hype train together with all of you to go back into some recordings and record some funny stuff. So yeah, looking forward to that a lot.
Good to hear it. Well, good to see that you're safe and well, dude, and you're settling in nicely. Next up, this guy loves nothing more than to start off the weekend by popping bottles of champagne and dancing with psychedelic cats. It's VR streamer, ZimDog5. How are you?
How the fuck did you find that, Mike? Jesus.
Got my beady eye on you.
5 minutes of a stream. Yeah, I played Chocolate, which Nathan had recommended a while back, and I was like, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was going to be something musical. I was not expecting at the end of my crazy, what I'd call the WTF Kitty stream, which was a bunch of different things, including Vertigo and a couple of other cat-related games. Don't even start me on Cat Sorter, where you've got to put different various shapes of cat anus on cats. Not good. But Chocolate was definitely one of the most kind of bizarre, high production quality games. And the best part about the end of it, although it's not my highlight, it just drops you out. That's it. You watch the thing, and then it drops you out. And then, an hour or two later, you get a copyright strike. So that's the way it works. But yeah, it was fun. It was a good one. Good recommendation from Nathan. If you haven't tried Chocolate, it's worth trying that out on Steam.
Nice.
My week's been good. I've been mostly in planning mode. So a lot of you know I do an annual secret barbecue at my place. This year, thanks to the circumstances, we're not able to get together as a group, and we normally do a whole bunch of things: poker, drinking, walk in Scottish hillside, all this kind of stuff. Instead, we're doing a virtual one, 2 days of binge gaming. So have planned that out. We're hitting 16 different games, including some film watching and stuff in there, and takes a lot of coordination to get that working, with 18 people on the invite. So that's what I'm looking forward to next week. So those of you who love a bit of a Zim flavor to FReality, I won't be here next week. I'll be drinking and doing some other things.
But can people watch this live?
No. This is
okay.
private event. Private
online event.
I wouldn't want to tease them. We're gonna have too much fun.
Yeah. Plus, you'll probably get banned from all the platforms.
Oh
showing
yeah,
your
absolutely
antics.
banned the way we talk. Yeah, definitely.
Fair enough. So next up, this guy. He once kissed an alien, and I think he liked it. It's our Dutch brother from another mother. It's of course Nathy. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm great. It was called what was it? Again?
Alien kissing simulator.
Alien Makeout.
Yeah, Alien Makeout Simulator.
On the I think it was
DK2 days.
DK1. DK2?
Yeah,
DK2?
yeah, DK2 days.
Yeah, because it would be hard to kiss an alien without
Sixed off.
Yeah, exactly. I should have not shared that video with Mike. I just wanted to share something cringe that I did in the past. I should have not done that. I regret it now.
Yeah, I'll always take advantage of it if you do. So
Yeah, everything you share with Mike is getting used in this podcast against you.
Exactly.
So
Just bear that in mind.
So this is again like another, well, I'm not gonna go.
Everyone in the chat saying classic Nathy.
What? Really? No,
Classic
that's not...
Nathy.
Okay, sure. That's how I started. You got to start somewhere. And
You should do it again. You really should do it again, Nathy, because now you got the tash going. You get the tickle on. You know what I mean? Like it's a different experience for your.
Plus haptic suits, treadmills, smell devices. Everything is there now. So that might definitely work. Who knows? I also don't really have like a super special highlight, to be honest.
That's all right.
My computer broke. That's my highlight. And also, my controller also doesn't really work properly. My Xbox controller, but my computer is fixed now, so that's good. I had some like broken memory. It just stopped working. It's like I'm done. Like my computer runs all day, so I totally get it. So that has been fixed now. I did have to say goodbye to a few old hard disks from like 2012. So I'm still like trying to get data of it, but it it takes ages to do that. That's about it. So I kind of want to save some time for this conspiracy stuff that we're going to talk about,
Of course. And the thing is as well, like last week, you were going to talk about Vertigo, and then we had such a crazy long show that we never talked about it.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to be talking about Vertigo this week. So, so now, our special guest this week, the creator of the Vertigo series in VR, and also had a hand in Moondust, The Lab, and Half-Life Alyx, it's Mr. Zulubo, also known as Zach. Welcome to the show. Oh dear.
Oh no.
Maybe not welcome to the show. He's dropped out. This is what happens when you go live on the internet. Oh dear. Okay. So let's
I can give you some highlights if you want.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get him to join us again. Let's see if we can do that during the show. But in the meantime, let's talk about. Oh, is he back?
Hello.
Hey, Zach, are you there?
Sorry,
Yeah, he's trying. He's trying. We're having some internet issues, I think, here on the Zach side of the universe.
While we're waiting for Zach to join us, let me jump into what I played and the chat played this week. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Mike, host of the show from Virtual Reality Oasis. But let's see what the chat has been up to before I get into my little highlight of the week. So any good suggestions from the chat this week?
Yes, a lot. We have Wato UK, who played some Assetto Corsa. I think Zim can totally, give a thumbs up for that. Also, Automobilista 2.
Automobilista 2 is it's a racing game. It's one of the new ones that's buzzing around. People are saying it's quite good. Car models, tires, that type of thing. So if you're a racer, there aren't that many titles that drop in a given year. So that's one to try.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of this title before.
Yeah, it was more of a flat title for a while, and then they added VR support.
Well, he also played Elite Dangerous and a bit of Half-Life Alyx, all on the Index. Then we have Carlos, who played Hellblade. We can still recommend that, I guess. I mean, that's a great third-person
Blade's great.
experience.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Then we have Matt, who played lots of premium bowling on the Quest. I've not tried that yet, but I heard it's very good.
It is actually good. I totally thought it was going to be rubbish, but as a guy who was born in Ohio, which is like bowling central, yeah, it's actually pretty damn good.
And then we have Borg, who started to replay all of the Half-Life games. We have Bugbites, who played Vertigo Remastered and Asgard's Wrath through Oculus Link. And then we have, this is an interesting name, VGA Port Authority, who played Dreams. and he says that he just published a little racing game for VR a couple of hours ago. Is there a way you can share those experiences, Mike? Do you know anything about that? How do you drop a link and then people can just go into Dreams and play it?
I'm not sure if you can drop a link externally, but certainly if you have a creator name on Dreams, then you can share that, and I guess you can search that way. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that's it. That's those are the highlights.
Nice. Well, let's go back to Zach now that he's back up and running with us. How you doing?
Sorry about those terribly timed technical difficulties.
No problem, man.
I think they were perfectly timed.
Your face was precious, man. Precious.
So how have you been? And do you have any sort of game that you've maybe played recently in VR that you'd want to highlight as maybe something interesting to share?
Or potato waffles.
Excuse me. I've been pretty good. Yeah, it's always exciting to ship a game. And as of other games I've been playing, I've been helping judge a Half-Life Alyx mapping contest.
Oh, nice.
Custom maps, which has been very fun. Been working through those slowly, despite the very hot heat wave we're having here in Seattle, and having to ship Vertigo Remastered.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
Any sort of highlights that you would recommend so far? Deep Inside is one of my personal favorites from like the Half-Life modding scene so far.
What's it called? It's like the main map that has been promoted with the contest. It's really cool. You're going through a museum. There's a bunch of really cool custom models and environments.
Interesting.
Dinosaurs.
Oh wow.
Oh,
okay.
Rowdy's getting interested.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Rowdy loves
very
it.
cool.
Anything with dinosaurs in, Rowdy's all over it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name, and I am looking it up right now.
Okay. But you're judging these maps, and will you be sharing these on your social media, like which one with the winners and stuff like that, or where will these be shared?
It's the competition is called Vault Maps. I don't know when the competition is ending. Pretty soon though, in the next week or two.
Okay.
And yeah, once the winner is announced, I'll be sharing that for sure.
Awesome. We're definitely looking forward to chatting to you later on, not only about Vertigo, but also your experience with working with Valve, because I understand you helped those out with like the lab, Moondust, and also the Half-Life Alyx as well. So I think it's going to be a really interesting discussion to talk about. But the thing I want to highlight this week, it was going to be Vertigo Remastered, and I'm not just saying that because Zach's here on the show with us, but I did actually really enjoy the game, but we'll get into more of that later on. The thing I want to share with everyone right now, though, is my experience with Dreams. So Dreams is a PlayStation exclusive title developed by Media Molecule, same team behind Little Big Planet series. And we've discussed it previously on the show as it's was going to be released with a VR update. And basically, it's kind of more of a platform than a game, and you're given all these tools to create your own games, animation, music, sculptures, pretty much anything. And is only limited really by your own imagination. You know, you can go a bit wild. So if you're a creative, you'll really love this. But for me, you know, I don't have time to spend hours and hours learning how to use these tools. So I just went in there, explored what they call the Dreamiverse, and checked out content made by other people. And the cool thing is that this week, I think it was on the 22nd, Dreams got this update. So it had VR support. So now you can dive in with the PSVR. And people can categorize their content that they make as, like, you know, VR compatible or exclusive to VR, and you can go and check out all these like interesting titles with a VR headset. So I explored it, and there was like a crazy wide variety of content, you know, from racing games, puzzle games. They had Beat Saber clones already, which was pretty crazy, with like Persona tracks. That was pretty mad. And even like a Siren Head VR game, which is pretty crazy. Like, if you know Siren Head, it's like, you know, quite popular online at the moment. So that was pretty crazy as well. But I think what I think is super smart about this whole thing is, you know, handing over these tools to the community to go wild and create their own creations and just see what they come up with. And, you know, we've seen this kind of concept similarly in the past with like Rec Room, for example. And also Oculus has hinted at this with like Horizons in the future, that, you know, user content will be available in there as well. So I think it's only a matter of time. Everything's a little bit rough at the moment because it's still early days, of course. The update only dropped this week for VR content, but I think it's only a matter of time before we see something really interesting and unique made in Dreams.
I do wonder how that kind of works with especially if there's like Beat Saber clones, how that works with like copyright and
exactly.
Those kind of things, because that's like community made, but at the same time, it doesn't really feel entirely right that games can be copied.
How does that work with the music though? How do you get music into Dreams? Can you just load a file? How does it work?
Apparently so. I don't know how they're doing this, but they had Persona, which is obviously a game series that people really enjoy, like Japanese game series. And they had music from Persona, but using a Beat Saber template. And then they also had Sonic levels, and they also had a Resident Evil VR level where you're sort of hunted by the Nemesis in VR.
Do they use the microphone of the...
That could be a really good
point.
point.
It through the computer and then just capture it. And then, because I don't think you can just be like, hey, I have an MP3, here we go.
You can make music in there though.
You can also browser link, like what Audio's Shield did once upon a time. They did a YouTube music link. There's a browser, but I don't know if there's integration in Dreams. Did you see any hint of that? I haven't played it yet.
No, so I guess Nathy's right. Using the microphone to upload, audio clips that way is probably the way they're getting around the system. But I think it is really, really interesting. And I think, like I said, it's only going to be a matter of time before we see something really interesting. But I kind of had a question for Zach about this, actually, because I don't know if you've seen Dreams or you've heard about this new platform.
I've definitely heard about it, yeah.
Okay, and I was just wondering, do you think something like this would be good for maybe budding game developers of the future, getting their feet wet and using these tools to create something maybe kind of rudimentary in Dreams, but then maybe transitioning later to some proper developer tools like Unity and Unreal, for example?
I definitely think it's a great way to kind of get people interested in creating games into that field. I personally got started making games in this tool called Scratch, which was made by MIT Media Labs, sort of a kid's coding sandbox type thing. And it seems like Dreams is something very similar to that, where it can kind of let people explore the field in a cool way.
Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's so important for especially when you're a kid and you want to explore that a little bit to get, even if it's simple and very basic or rudimentary, you get something that you kind of bitten by the bug to learn more about it later. And I think that is a giant improvement that you can do for any kind of stuff.
It's kind of interesting.
That's why Nintendo Labo was so awesome too.
Yeah, exactly.
It was such a low entry level to start developing something small and just learn from it.
I totally agree, and it's interesting to think that maybe in 5 to 10 years time we'll have proper developers that maybe started experimenting with these tools using Dreams, and like you say, Nintendo Labo is another great example there. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting concept, and looking forward to seeing where this goes in the future.
Not only that, but it's also important that it comes out now. I know it's kind of late, to be honest. I mean, Dreams has been out for a while, but PlayStation 4 is kind of running on its end now. So it's good to have this as one of the last, let's say, VR, kind of titles, because it's more VR support than it's a VR game. Because that whole ecosystem is now kind of ready to go to the next step, people create stuff. I'm sure they can, use that on the PlayStation 5. Also with its power, you will be able to create more things. So it's kind of nice to have this as while you're waiting for the next PlayStation to drop, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was bugging me the whole time. I was thinking the content is good, and you've got a nice introduction from Media Molecule as well, but the hardware is just kind of every time I go back to the PSVR, although it's got a really strong library, hardware is the thing that's really holding that system back right now.
Same with Iron Man, man. It comes out as one of the last titles. I'm I'm sure, I hope they're just gonna remaster it and just because then it's gonna be way more awesome than it already is.
Or maybe if it runs on the new console, it'll be a higher refresh rate or something like that, or some sort of, it'll look better with a higher resolution headset,
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the thing that got me really tuned in, although I didn't end up going the coding route, I had some skill with it, was StarCraft map editor. There's a use map settings thing in StarCraft, and I remember sitting down as a teenager, trying to put together all these various triggers and various sequences and just getting something going. And then you put it out there and it either does well or doesn't do well. But even seeing anyone, even one person playing the thing that you created is pretty cool, especially getting feedback, on it. And that can be really infectious.
like RPG Maker on Windows. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's categorized really well. You know, you can really easily sort through a lot of the content there. So definitely, if you've got a PSVR and you're interested in like, you know, getting more VR content, like particularly from the community, then Dreams is the one to go for. To go and check it out.
You can play this with a gamepad and also the moves.
Absolutely, yeah. You can play it with both. So I experimented with both setups and both work. Using the gamepad is actually a lot easier. You know, the moves, like, they kind of suck. But, you know, for a first-person shooter, they work quite well. But for other games, maybe not so much. So you can kind of mix between them if you want to.
Aim controller?
No aim controller support just yet, although it is one of the most sort of voted for updates. And Media Molecule said that they will look into adding it in the future if it's requested even more. So, yeah, expect that in the future, I guess.
I had a quick question before we switched away to Zach on Scratch. Do you know, is that still around and valuable for people who are, you know, looking to get their kids potentially interested in VR? Sorry, coding?
It's not VR specifically. But,
yeah, sorry, that was a brain jump. I just meant, sorry, coding. Because there's a bunch of different, like, I saw Tested pumping this toy last Christmas or the Christmas before, which was about binary switches, and there's a number of different things, whether physical or software. But do you think it's still a valuable tool in 2020, or is it kind of gone by the wayside?
No, Scratch is still going strong. I'm on their homepage right now, scratch.mit.edu. Yeah, it's really active. There's a huge community around it of kids and teenagers making these little games and little projects. I'd say absolutely, if you're like a young person that kind of wants to get into coding but you don't know where to start, this could be a great place to start.
Nice. And is it free?
It is absolutely free.
Wow. Nice. There you go.
Cool. Thank you, Zach.
Check it out. So let's jump into some news then. But before we get into some news, I want to give an update about a discussion that we had last week on the show about Microsoft's Flight Simulator.
Okay.
So I had a theory last week about the game, and I said that it would struggle to get VR support as it would be released on the PC Xbox store. You know, the Xbox, like the PC Windows
exclusive.
store. And, you know, it wasn't coming to Steam. And I said, you know, the Windows PC store doesn't support any other VR headsets apart from Windows Mixed Reality. Well, a fan of the show, Joe Caprich, got in touch and stated that he has an Oculus Rift. He also has Xbox Game Pass, and that he's able to play the Xbox Store version of No Man's Sky, which does support VR, using the Rift, which then goes and hooks into Steam VR. So although it's on the Windows PC Store, when you play the game with another headset other than a Windows Mixed Reality headset, it uses the Steam VR hook in to play the game.
I've never heard about that. It's like the unexplored territory where we never go, basically.
Kind of is.
There's like
Zach.
Tetris effect on the Epic Games Store.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't know if it's still an exclusive, but it's on the Epic Games Store and it has VR support, but it just launches Steam VR when you play with Steam VR.
Exactly, and Subnautica does as well through Epic Games.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there's some interesting use cases there that I'd completely forgotten about that do hook into Steam VR, being an open sort of platform. So potentially, you know, Microsoft Flight Simulator could get VR support using Steam VR, although it won't be officially launching on Steam, which is again kind of interesting.
Like a hybrid, like you're buying hybrid games where it's like, yeah, okay, it's on the Epic Games Store, Windows Store, but it's also Steam. So it's kind of. It's almost like playing, for example, Rainbow Six on Steam, but through Uplay. It's kind of like the same thing, but then it's VR support. That kind
multi-layer.
Yeah, kind of in that way. So I just wanted to say thanks for Joe for emailing and just like letting us know, because you know, we sort of like, you know, theorize and hypothesize about things sometimes, and sometimes we get it wrong. So it's great for people to email and say, actually, this is the case. I've tried this out and it does work. So thanks for the email, Joe.
I still think the reason why it's not coming to VR is because it's an Xbox title, and Xbox doesn't have a VR headset. So it wouldn't make sense for him to already release it exclusively, because they would lose on their main store.
But I would argue that there's probably a bigger simmer community on PC than there probably is on Xbox. I don't know.
I would say so, by far.
Yeah. So, I think they would be alienating a lot of their user base, and it's like one of the most requested features, I think, at this point. And they are acknowledging it. It's just a question of when it's going to happen.
I think if you would visit Phil Spencer at his office, I think there is a secret drawer with very interesting headsets in there.
Quite possibly. Although, Microsoft are in talks with Facebook at the moment, with collaborations with Mixer and Facebook Gaming and stuff like that. Yeah. So you never know where this relationship might go in the future. They've had relationships in the past, shipping Xbox controllers with the original CV1. That's so never know where this might go.
Plus, I don't have a platform anymore, so I'm waiting for anyone anyways. No Mixer,
So that's a quick update from last week's show, but let's get into the news of this week's show and kick it off just with the biggest news of the week this week. And this is these images leaked online of a supposedly Oculus Quest 2 headset. Now, we've known for some time, of course, that Oculus are working on a new headset. We've talked about it on the show before, and we kind of stated that it was likely going to be announced during Oculus Connect 7, which is later this year. But this is the first time we've ever seen any images of a headset. And these images came from a source on Twitter known as Walking Cat. He's a notorious leaker of tech from companies such as Microsoft and Samsung, and he even previously leaked the HP Reverb G2 a full week ahead of its official announcement, so he does have some credibility. But further to the images that he showed, which were kind of like promotional renders that you would see on like a website or something like that, we also got some further images leaked from an anonymous Redditor who posted some more sort of raw looking images of the headset itself with sort of like, stickers on them from the factory warning about, I think it was FDC compliance and stuff like that, giving more credibility, of course, to these other rumors.
Probably a developer, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. Because I think they posted on Reddit and then they quickly deleted their account. So it was kind of on there. And by that point, it was already shared, yeah.
Imagine if they find out you're that one developer who
you wouldn't want to be that
then
person.
You're out of the whole business, I guess.
No. So let's talk about it, because I think these images are super exciting. There's lots of interesting aspects of the design to talk about, and I think we'll just go over it kind of step by step. And maybe we should just start with the design, because, for those of you that are listening to the show, you should check out the images. We've all posted them on our Twitter accounts, so go check them out there. But one of the biggest things about this headset design is that it's completely white. So what do you guys think about the new white design? Are you digging it, or you want to go back to the sort of black headsets?
Well, first of all, those first renders that you mentioned, the headset was white, and then the developer guy posted it, or girl, and then it was gray, kind of. Or is it maybe the light that shines on it? But
I think it's the white.
Do you remember this? We had like the exact same thing when the Go landed. Like initially it looked like silver, and then when you saw it under certain conditions, it looked like this horrible gray color. And then the end product is okay. Like it's a nice kind of gray, but this is
like a mix of white and gray, maybe.
You don't know until you see it in production, but I still think that we've got two sets of images here. Like the one that Mike was talking about, which is asset tagged, and obviously had serial numbers bleeded out or something like that. I think that's an older version of the same headset that you're looking at, and then the promo images, because of the change of the strap, because you've got this kind of very quick add-on Go strap on that initial image, and then you switch over to kind of a hard strap on the new one.
Oh no, I think that is the same strap. It's just the way that they've done it in the render that makes it look more rounded and rigid, but I think it is actually loose like the initial images, because
I don't think so.
It's the same with the Go promotional images. They used the same round look. Like it didn't look like a loose strap in the rendered images. It looked like a round strap. So I think this is like.
I would disagree there based on what I'm seeing in the image. Just in terms, what I think is, and I know we're not talking strap just yet, but you said color, right? Do you like this color? A lot of people are talking about white with fingerprints. I mean, I shared a horrible image of my original CV1 picture with some of the other tubers, and like the black for me, I have weird like grease on my hands that if I touch anything black, like a matte black poster, like that poster behind me, if I put my hand on there right now, my fingerprints will be on there for life. Like I've got that kind of weird context to me. So anything black, I have to stay away from. Anything black and glossy or matte. So white for me, fine. I will accept it. I think it's kind of a cool look, and it is funny that they kind of stole from PS5. It's like the same kind of look and feel.
It depends on what like coding you like paint over it. For example, I'll have like an Xbox controller that is also kind of like white.
Yeah.
After 2 years, it's still not dirty, even that I'm holding it in my hands nonstop. It's sometimes what you paint over it. So if that's a good coating, it's fine.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
So,
So are you liking this new white design then, or are you sort of thinking?
I care about what's going on the inside. I think black is usually better in terms of how it's gonna look after a couple of years. But again, dude, like for me, a VR headset it's about what's really.
To me, I think it's
the problem that I see with these images is that we don't have a date on them. We don't know how old these images are or when these renders were made, and I think that is still like a problem with making an estimation of like what stage are we looking at. And that being said, also, I wouldn't automatically assume that this is the only color that they're having. Mainly because I know that if you make a prototype, you're gonna save on making materials, and maybe the prototype is just like in the old days when they were making computers. There would always be that standard off-color white just because it was cheaper to produce. So it could be that this is just like a prototype that they have there that is just not colored, but that the ultimate version will still have a certain dipping pattern or will have
maybe you don't like the thing
color.
The thing is you don't have a date, but what we do know is the Oculus Connect is around the corner, and that usually things leak right before things launch. So, and I think like for this conversation, it's of course fun to say that we assume this is the latest version, because otherwise we're gonna be like, okay, so this could be version 2 point something this, and I guess this is close to.
I think so, and I think you wouldn't go to the effort of making like rendered images like that look this fancy if that wasn't the final design.
And you don't just leak out of nowhere. This is also a little bit of marketing that is going on. So you do it right before the event, and you're not gonna launch some kind of like prototype on Reddit.
Yeah, and plus, like for me, I think it's important for Oculus to distinguish this headset apart from the others. Because if you go to a friend or someone who doesn't really know about VR, and all they need to know is the fact that the white one is the latest version, then it just makes it easier from a new buyer's perspective to buy the right headset.
That is what I think as well. Like if they indeed go with such a bold color, I mean, not that white is so special in terms of like the color pattern, but it is very different from their previous headsets. So while we initially, at least I thought that they might go for like a silent upgrade, saying like, okay, we're gonna upgrade the Quest to a Quest like 1.5 or something like that, and just like the PlayStation does that with a PlayStation version 2. But that's not really what's happening, because if they're indeed going to release this with like a new color, this is really like to show off and to, like you say, this is something different.
But they also learned from the past, because when we were at PAX and they were trying to sell the Rift S to people on the Quest, they had to actually do quizzes with them to tell them what the differences were. So doing this is of course way smarter, and I think that's the main reason why it has this color.
Because remember at Christmas, those horror stories of kids that wanted a Quest that ended up getting something completely different because of the confusion in the market, because there's so many just generic looking black boxes in the market. Whereas, with this, it stands out as a brand new product. So hopefully this Christmas, if it does come out, kids saying to their parents, just get the freaking white one. They'll get what they want.
But there's another thing on the color, though. I mean, if I dare say it, I think that a white headset is probably more attractive to female buyers than a black headset would be. It just has that kind of sleek, chic appeal, and it just goes.
It needs to be rose gold.
Goes easy. Oh God, not the rose gold thing. Goes easy, on the eyes. The one thing is, like, I think in that color scheme, it's, as you say, it's like really easy to take it apart from any other headset, and it's very interesting that they sunset the Go. In the same step. Like sunset the Go, these things start leaking. I mean, in my opinion, if you're asking yourself the question, and similar to what Nathan's saying there, is this an intentional leak or is this actually, a breach? I think this is an intentional leak.
Why would a developer leak this stuff? If you are working on a game, you're not gonna put yourself on the spot. It's complete BS. It's the same with when other headsets popped up. People only leak it if they have, let's say, for example, the guy, the cat guy, he does very well on social media with these leaks, But something that I think is interesting, that because it has this gray color or this white color, we'll soon find out what it is. But for some people, it's like, Oculus just goes for that color scheme now. It doesn't mean anything else than that. Other people, of course, compare it to the Go because the Go had a similar color. So you have like opinion-wise everywhere. It already splits in two there, just based on the color. But the color could mean nothing, It could be just like just go for a different thing. It's a good strategy, but it has nothing to do with the Go.
One other point with the color though is price. Similar to if you're going to like a supermarket, about the color of the box, like black tends to be aligned to like a premium product, whereas white tends to be the cheaper one, like a white box, white, similar to we saw with the Go, like that kind of, I'll give it that terrible gray color looks cheap. But the whole point is you want to make your cheap product look cheap so that you've got that already in your head when you're looking to buy it.
But honestly, if you move on to design right now, it looks very cheap anyways.
You think so?
Very simplistic. Yeah.
Well, so are you talking like I see there's two hemispheres here. There's like there's the whole hemisphere of like the branded product images that look quite sleek, and then you've got the, as you say, like near Go gray model that's sitting on a table.
So to make it clear, I believe that those two leaks are the same pictures, just like Mike. So I get it, like you see them differently.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's why, like, based on that, I think it has a pretty simplistic design compared to the Quest. Okay, if I compare it to what we already have.
Yeah.
If you come from nowhere and you never bought a headset,
and certainly from what we, and I don't think it will come in any other colors, because from what Bloomberg was saying, like a month ago or whatever in their leaked sort of article then, was that, the focus was making the production more streamlined, because that was a big problem with, the demand of the Quest. They were struggling to produce it because of some components. So they obviously wanted to streamline this manufacturing process, and offering different colors is going to complicate that even further. So I think this is just the new design. They've stripped off the material to make it lighter, easier to produce, and hopefully these cost savings will then be passed on to the consumer as well. But
so I'm gonna throw in something that is even more spicy. Okay,
go for it.
Because of that simplistic design, and again, like, we don't know anything. None of us really knows anything.
No, this is all speculation at this point.
But I think we're pretty much to the point where we can say that these pictures are real in a way, and that we already predicted that a new headset would come out. I'm not sure if this is what we were expecting. Because what I think personally is that looking at this build, looking at this simplistic design, and the way it just like tells a story, I think this is a headset that is going to focus on the entertainment and social part of VR, just like the Go once did.
I also think
much,
that
it's pretty much wait. So it's pretty much a successor to the Go. I'm not saying a replacement of the Go, and uses the certain features that make the Quest so great, and uses that. But it's gonna be to me, it looks like a social headset. Like, why I think that is because that strap is not telling me, hey, you're a gamer, go and play with this strap. It just, the whole design doesn't scream gaming. You know what I mean? So that's what I think. And that could mean, okay, and now I'm going really deep down the rabbit hole, is that this could be, we could, like, for everyone who owns a Quest, okay, this could look like a downgrade. But for the people who want to go social, it's not a downgrade. It's exactly what they want, because they don't, like, you could still game on it just like the Go, but not like you would on the Quest. The Quest is like a gaming focused headset. Yeah. And then it could be that they are gonna update the Quest that we have now with a new head strap as we wanted, and maybe a little bit lighter, some minor features that we want to see change, but I don't believe that Oculus will decide to completely overhaul the Quest to the next level. But I mean, it just came out a year ago. So I think we're going to see so we're going to see two headsets. We have the Quest, and I don't know what it's
okay. So
the problem that I have with that, though, is that the reason why the Quest is so successful is it's because it's a gaming headset.
Yeah.
Not because it's a social device. And the reason why the Oculus Go was shifted out was because it wasn't a gaming headset. It was mainly a social device. So I can't, I mean, maybe they will, but from that perspective, I can't imagine them to now make a new device specifically made only for the social experience that they're going to offer.
Facebook still wants VR to be social. They're just
Yeah.
But as
I'm
an
not really doing a
add-on
great
to
job of it.
the platform, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
As a
the thing is,
platform
like-
add-on to the platform that they're given.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg said he wants 1 billion people in VR, right? And those are not just gamers; those are the average Joes. If you see the marketing that they constantly push, they want more average Joes in there, and they don't care about gaming. And
But who's
again,
gonna
I'm saying
buy a
you can
headset
still. I'm not saying they're
To
gonna
go
like.
into Facebook.
No, but I'm not saying like you can't play games on it, but just not the games that we want to play. Like I
Yeah.
feel like us gamers are when we see a new leak, it's like that's for me. I want that. That strap. I don't like it. I don't like these. But who knows? Maybe it's not for us. It's for my mom.
So the thing is,
I don't
right?
know.
So Quest owners generally complain about the weight, right, and the strap and the audio. So I'm surprised that this doesn't address those issues because they were the 3 main things that the community were banging on about. However, what if they launched this as a sort of a cheaper model because it's easier to produce, so they pass those savings on to the consumer. So maybe it's like $299, making it even more accessible to the wider public out there. And they then offer an optional Pro Strap option accessory that you can upgrade it, that then adds all the other features that you might
I think
have
it's-
wanted.
I think
It
that's-
depends.
I think it's
It
a fair
depends
chance.
on the software, on what is in there, on what is it offering more than the Quest then? Can I still play all the games that I play on Quest?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be the same in terms of like content available. We just don't know the internal specs right now.
The thing I've been seeing on social media is that still we have this atmosphere that the Go was a headset that sucked, that had no potential, nothing. Like a lot of people have never tried it. They have never seen those social features. They have never seen what gets developed behind the scenes. For example, my brother works with Go's, and people in in the healthcare love it. It's getting used a lot. It's just that 3DOF, yes, was kind of on the edge, and that's why I think they're just gonna try it again with a cheaper model that is now 6DOF, because that's really nice to have. So I think what you're saying, Mike, I totally agree with that. Maybe you could still game on it, but if you want to downgrade it, you also have to maybe like if they want to sell for a cheaper price, that might also mean hardware-wise. Like the Quest is already running on its limit. I feel like if you downgrade the hardware even more, what are you gonna play on it? So I feel like if you just use it for the entertainment part, social, you don't need much power. So you could technically downgrade a little bit. I think we're already on the edge with the Quest that we have right now.
Yeah, we are.
But are you saying that you will still be able to play all of the Quest games on this downgraded device then?
I think
because-
so. There's no way that they could segregate the market into 2 different headsets and 2 different stores
But
that
can you
are
downgrade
standalone.
more than the Quest already did? Because the
No.
Quest, as I said, is already pretty.
But like the hardware is becoming cheaper since the Quest originally launched. So like the chipsets will have evolved. Maybe it's got the
So
835.
what you're saying is that this
Okay.
will replace the Quest.
I think so. Yeah.
replace the Quest. I don't think it's
yeah.
going to replace the
Yeah, it's
Quest.
really interesting. We seem to be at a divide here, and just to challenge one of the points you made earlier, Mike, because you were talking about the comfort and the balance of the headset, which is one of the main complaints, right? Comfort. But like what I see in this headset, when I see it, and particularly in the most recently leaked images, is a really shallow headset that's balanced to a point and uses a feature that no headset to date that I've seen has used, which is like a nose hole. Like they've got a specific cutout for your nose to kind of like insert your nose between the lenses. It doesn't poke
no flaps.
below, no flaps. Instead, you have these like rubber eye cups, which could be used to do two things that are really beneficial. On the side, when you see the positioning of the strap as well, like where the strap connects to the headset, it's at a more forward position than they've done before. Probably as far forward as they can to get that balance a little bit better. They've cut out weight in the headset. That's really clear to me. And they've kind of brought it closer to your face. This will do two things. Number one, it addresses the comfort factor in terms of the overall weight of the headset. The positioning of the fulcrum point will balance it out. And the lenses coming closer to your eyes perceivably could help your FOV. You could actually get a slightly better field of view in these lenses.
And
But at this point, you
agree
think that
completely with
you think the strap is going to be rigid at the back, don't you? Like you think it's going to be.
Yeah, see, what I took from those promotional images is that this was the kind of story in my head. Was they first were prototyping and they put the Go strap on, which is a lovely soft strap if you want to lie down. It's the best strap for lying in bed or whatever. But it's not good for aggressive Beat Saber or 6DOF games. It's just not. It's too
No, it
slippery
doesn't-
for that.
As I said, it doesn't scream for gaming. It's not a
Exactly,
gaming
it doesn't
strap.
stream for, and that's why I think that what they've got on there is actually a soft top strap, but then coupled with what looks like quite an ingenuitive belt strap that kind of has some connector here that allows you to adjust the size of it, but it's actually rigid. And I don't mean hard rigid, but like a firm plastic.
The problem is, if you look at the darker grey images, the adjustments dial or the adjustment bits at the back are exactly the same as on the render. So I think they are exactly the same, and I think it is going to be a soft go like head strap.
But do you think like that weird like sidebar material that's on there as well? Because on the gray images, you actually see and I'll zoom in here for chat what I'm talking about. On the gray images, you see a kind of what looks to me like a flat white plastic along the side, whereas in the gray images, it looks like a material, like a material that's actually got a kind of like a great pattern to it that I think for two things. I think it would end up looking cheap really fast because it'll get dirty, won't be washable, kind of like the fabric on the CV1 or the Quest at the moment. So I'd be really surprised if they ship with that. But if they're going for the fork, if they're not going for an upgrade,
they would have a Pro strap as well, huh?
Right, I think that's a good idea, and I think that's a good idea because the idea of selling like the advanced model if you want a game, great, because it takes cost out of the device, and like what Nathan said, it makes this more of an entertainment / viewer headset and takes up Mike, what Go just lost.
But Mike, you're saying that that's like the guess right now that this one that we see and might be in it, like we might soon see more pictures of like a different, maybe an improved version, that will replace the current Oculus Quest that we have now. So they go even cheaper.
I think so, yeah.
I think is going to happen, as I said before, is that this will be a headset, the cheap version, 6DoF, that focuses more, as I said, on entertainment, is not necessarily for the heavy lifting. And then the Quest that we have now might be improved with some new features. So they have two headsets. So they sell two standalone headsets. So the Rift S, well, we know what happened to the Rift S, but they have two standalone headsets. So you can pick very cheap or very
I almost think we're going to be they're going to be doing the same thing like they did before with the Rift and the Rift S. They're going to completely release it.
Then we're screwed.
Well, this is the problem.
I'm with Mike on that one. I'm with Mike on that one.
The current community doesn't want this, okay?
No.
But the average Joes do want this.
Yeah,
but
wait.
The current community didn't want the Rift S either, and that's what they got.
No, that's true. But I think it might I also don't want this, okay? If I'm talking about the Doom scenario right now. But I think outside of that, price-wise, and also like downgrading it at that point, Facebook Horizon, social push, I think could be a really big, like it might be like a loss for the current community, but with the Rift S, they already showed that they don't really care.
The problem that I have with that is that I see Facebook Horizon more as an add-on to the headsets that are already there, because in order to push that platform, you will have to have a community that's already as a free upgrade. If they make Facebook Horizon only to work with a new headset that you specifically need to buy, then it's doomed from the start.
No, but he's not saying that, is he? Nathan, is that what you're saying? Because I don't think that's not what I'm getting. Because like I think it makes sense to
it's social push.
Yeah, to market with it, make it cheap, make it the thing that, as he said, your mom would pick up.
Who's going to buy this headset if you can't play the games on it?
Loads of people, because that's the whole point. Like the Go had a huge market as well. It's 6DoF. You can actually do quite a bit of 6DoF, even sitting, even moving around. And with Mike's ideas strapped onto that, with the Pro head strap, this actually works out as a really compelling business model.
The thing is, like,
I don't see them having two different headsets before Christmas.
Well, I don't know Christmas, but like the thing is, we're living in a VR bubble. This conversation is led by gamers, but there is a big audience out there who doesn't game, but who loves to be social, who likes to play Monopoly with their friends and just chat. I know it sounds
you could totally VR chat in that headset, silly. And you could totally get into Horizon and do Facebook.
But seriously, Mike, if Mike is right about this, and they're going to replace it, this is going to be a very interesting shift. And then it's the moment to have another tech giant to jump in and be like, listen, this is what we have, and we do get you gamers. And then you have maybe a split, but this is a good opportunity for other competitors to maybe then jump in.
So when I see these images, there's one quote that always keeps sticking in my mind, and that is Brendan Arib. Before he left Facebook, he said one of the reasons in a TechCrunch article, he was quoted as saying the reason that he left is that he wasn't interested in a race to the bottom. And we've seen it with the Rift S, and potentially we're seeing that with this product now, is that they're just making it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. They're not addressing the community concerns. They're just saying, look, we just want to crunch the numbers here and make the most affordable headset we possibly can. And I think that is a dangerous thing.
So, Mike, are you actually, because I'm trying to understand your corner in this, like, are you basically saying, yes, it's a replacement for Quest as a Quest 2, but they've also undercut it, so it's actually a cheaper headset so that they can go after the mass market? Whereas I think Nathan and I are a little bit more on this is like taking up the market that the Go dropped, and it's going to be the budget headset that's going to help feed the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah, so you still have the Quest for gamers. They might do some minor improvements to satisfy us all, but that's the positive message. And then you have let's say the successor to the Go with some features of the Quest. That is now what people call the Lite version or whatever it is. I'm sure it's going to have a different name because you can't have two headsets and call one Quest this and Quest that. I think it's going to be something else. But yeah, that's what I think. But that's the positive version. What Mike says could probably also happen based on what people at Facebook have said who work there, but also with the Rift S. Although, Rift S, we do need to realize that Rift S was on the edge of what PC VR gaming right now is. Just in general, the PC VR market isn't doing that well compared to standalone. So that's maybe something to weigh in as well. But it could happen. I mean, Facebook right now as a company, I heard is, behind the scenes, a lot of people are, communication is kind of strange with the whole pandemic, but also it's a big company. So it could be that someone made this decision and thinks it's super smart. Well, it's not. So I don't know.
But the thing is, what we don't know, of course, is like the internals. Like it could have a faster processor, could have a slightly wider field of view. We mentioned about refresh rate, and Guy Godin sort of said.
If you talk about the internals, because you can like probably get something from the images that were released here, because like we do see a knob on there, but we don't see an IPD slider, right? We don't see something that is. I know that you think that there might be some space in between to still like shift the lenses.
I think so. Yeah.
But what I'm thinking actually, and especially because we're having this conversation now that this might be a Go successor, I'm thinking then that if there's not an IPD slider, that this is a single panel device, so not a dual panel, single panel, and therefore it will also be an LCD panel. So not OLED like the Oculus Quest. I'm thinking that this will be a single panel, and if it's a single panel, that means that also the refresh rate will probably be lower than the ones that they're pushing out, unless they're coming with a new, different kind of.
But I think the way, like when I say successor to the Go, people constantly go like,
poor Zach, Jesus Christ, lads.
Sorry, Zach.
Ah, jeez. He's come into like the spiciest podcast.
So like this is my like.
Okay.
I think it will have bumped up specs. I think it will be faster than the current Quest.
Okay.
I think it will have probably a higher field of view. It will be a nicer headset in the headset itself.
Yeah, but in the headset,
at $299, but with the optional $100 Pro strap. So then you got
$100 for that strap. Why?
I reckon so. And then it will compete with the current Quest. But it will have bumped up specs and it will address the issues that the community have got. But yeah, in terms of IPD, I think there is some adjustment there in the lenses.
I was with you on that one like last week. Like I said as well, I thought it was going to be a silent upgrade. But since they changed the color, I'm not convinced of that anymore.
Okay. Maybe we should ask Zach what he thinks. Go on, Zach. What do you think of all this?
Go for it.
He just
thinks it sucks. Like,
honestly, you guys are doing a lot of speculation here, but
typical.
Okay. My personal feelings about where VR has room to grow is that like there are a lot of average Joes out there, but I don't think they necessarily want to get into VR. But the people that do want to get into VR is gamers who think VR looks cool and want to play Half-Life Alyx, but think it's too expensive right now.
Yeah.
And therefore, like making a cheaper headset that still kind of can hold its own against the higher rung headsets could be really good. I don't know if Facebook thinks that. It's possible they don't, and they are just gunning really hard for social VR. That's what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
So we'll just see if they've learned anything from the Go, or if they're still just doing their race to the bottom.
But you're
I think we have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think you're right. Of course we have to wait and see. But I think it's interesting, like this whole image thing has everyone triggered, which is great because, we're super passionate about the industry and we want it to be a success.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think that things are going in a wrong direction, and it just might be because we're not seeing the bigger picture. And of course, I'm sure the bigger picture will be shown later on, because there was some date that was also announced by Walking Cat, and that was the 15th of September. And that would roughly sort of coincide with previous years of Oculus Connect. So, 15th of September could be the announcement date for OC7. So we're only a couple of months out now, but we're just going to have to keep on speculating for the next couple of months until we get put out of our misery by Oculus telling us the true details.
Again, the $299 is the same guess that I was making when I first saw the images to this device. I thought it was going to be kind of an upgrade, and then I saw the kind of what I read as internal prototyping images, and it kind of changed my view a little bit. I do think that this is going to be something that's going to be cheap, though. I don't think it's going to release at the same price. I do think $299 is right on the money.
You can't speculate on price if you don't know what the device is aimed for.
But I think that they're not going to change it doesn't seem like they're going to change the CPU in it. Like, why would they? It would segment the market in terms of the devs. Why don't they just go for, the replace, like what... I'm being careful to step around the words of Word. So a $299 version of the Quest that they've basically worked through manufacturing. They've upgraded the audio channel, which you can see. They've addressed some of the microphone feed issues. They've addressed the comfort and balance. And for the money, they could go $299, they could go $249. And that will sell like hotcakes, I think. I think it's a really good move. It's absolutely heartbreaking to say that I kind of agree with you, Mike, on the point when you're saying that the Go images looked like a firm head strap when they did the promotional images for the Go. And unfortunately, like Apple, they tend to follow this kind of model with their marketing, and they don't tend to sway very much from that. So you're probably right on that guess, and that kind of sucks because... it sucks only if there isn't an upgrade option, but I don't think I could see people paying more than $49 for a strap add-on, especially if it's plastic.
I am a little bit concerned, to be honest, because most of the key members that we knew from Oculus left, and we don't know who's sitting there anymore. We don't know what perspective those people have on VR. Facebook has also approved certain games that I personally would have not approved on the store. For how good they are. Now that's of course the game part, but Facebook does have this track record of sometimes bringing something out that totally does not match with at least what the current community wants, but they do have the data, and they pull a lot of data from the Quest and from the Go, so they might have made a bet on that. We'll see.
So some other thing we should quickly address is like the ports on it. So it's got a single 3.5mm audio jack, so it's ditched the second one from the images. The USB-C connector is flipped on its side, which does make sense if you're going to use it for Oculus Link. So the cable runs directly back along with the strap to the back of the headset. That makes sense. The controllers have been slightly redesigned, so they're a bit smaller. They look more kind of like the Oculus CV1 controllers, actually, with the kind of like round disc at the top. There's also a section that kind of protrudes slightly, and it seems like they've addressed the battery door sliding issue with this new design, which is welcome. And that was kind of like also part of the Bloomberg article, and these are what people were referring to as the Jedi controllers, because I think there's some confusion around that. I think this is what the Jedi controllers are, just a slight redesign and refinement of the controller design that we know and love already. Obviously the IPD adjustment thing was a big thing because it's got no physical IPD adjustment slider at the bottom, but from looking at the fresh image that was uploaded like last night, it does look like there's some wiggle room between the lenses, so what that means right now. There was also like a number 2 in the center where the kind of proximity sensor was, and there's been some speculation whether that'll be a dial that you can adjust the lenses to different sections, like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, based on your IPD range. So that would be kind of interesting if that was to materialize, because that's something we've never seen before. But like we said, all of this is speculation right now. We do get super hyped about these things because, of course, we're just very excited about new tech. It's always exciting about talking about new tech, in my opinion. But I guess, 15th of September is probably on the money in terms of when we're likely to hear more about this headset. But maybe we'll get some more leaked images between then and now, particularly addressing the IPD issue.
what could be interesting, if I'm sure some people already did, like reach out to Palmer Luckey and some others, key people from
See
back
what
in the
they
days.
say.
And yeah, see what they say, because I mean, Palmer made like articles before on his website on the PCVR market on standalone, and I mean he can make he's sometimes getting very close to.
Yeah, but let's be honest about it. If it's super light and it's super comfortable, even though we're questioning this strap, it could be that. And if it is an upgrade in terms of performance over the original Quest, then it's still going to be a good headset. But it's just a question of like, if you've bought a Quest already, I wouldn't worry too much, because indications are saying this is a light version, but the content across the two headsets are going to be exactly the same. So
do you think on the strap, guys, that they've addressed the modular nature? I mean, there's a huge community out there of adding to the Quest and like pimping it out, right? Changing out the head strap. Like they could go and learn from what Vive did not do so well with how you connect the head strap to the actual device. So if they made that robust and really easy for people to then mod, 3D print, and actually go with their own connectors,
considering it's
that'd
Facebook,
be awesome.
I don't see that.
No, they don't want people to mod it. They don't want people to mod it. I think like all those Franken Quests we have seen, I think Facebook does not like that stuff, because they want to sell something that is good. It proves that their products are just not there yet. And yeah, I mean, Facebook tries to be a little bit like Apple. I don't think they like it when you, I don't know, plug a satellite on your phone or something. You walk around, like they just want it to be theirs and nothing sticks out on that. Because I mean, Franken Quest proves that it was just too front heavy. So
yeah, I think the market's there. If they don't take advantage of this kind of like pro strap model, it's a missed opportunity in my opinion.
Interesting stuff, man. I'm of course like still excited for all of this.
Of course.
As I said, I'm also a little bit concerned after the Rift S. I want standalone to succeed. I think if it's becoming a standalone, that's already a plus point. If they would say like, oh, let's make another PCVR headset, I'm like, I don't know if that's like the right moment to do that. I just hope that the team who is working on this knows what they are doing. Please let it not just be this random team that just builds a headset and has no clue.
And they listen to the community feedback. I think that's really important here.
What about the market, though? Like the market here, like you're getting undercut in Asia by a whole bunch of other types of headsets. So I still think the price is the number one reason for this headset's existence. If you can't bring the price down and address some of the key features that are problematic in the current headset, this doesn't have a reason to exist.
The problem with the price is that no one can compete at the price that it's at right now. Like it's $399. No one can compete. No one can compete with that. That's so true. If they drop it even further, it means that you're distancing Facebook even further ahead than the competition, because like with all the amount of research and development they've done, all the amazing updates that they've done this year, who can make up that ground at this point? I think the only person
I'm on the opposite
Apple,
spectrum.
And they could no way sell a headset for that price.
I'm on the opposite spectrum, and I know Paul Malocki did a great article about that as well. They can make a headset for free, but if there's no added value for everyone to have a headset like that, then it doesn't matter that it's free. I think it's far more important that the headset itself, regardless of the price, I think the price point of the Quest now is already a great price point. But if they can offer a value with that headset, like they do with the Quest, increase that value by, for example, adding a social platform, something that people want to get invested in more, I don't think they need to change the price at all.
Well, yeah, like the thing is like that price that we talked about, like $299, someone photoshopped on that picture that leaked Oculus Quest Lite with a price underneath it.
That was me.
That was you. Yeah,
that was mine.
Okay. Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like then people start to that starts to sing around, and then other people also. But what Mike said, like it could to me it looks cheap from the outside. Okay, it just looks cheap from the outside, but from the inside it could be expensive.
Yeah. What's under the hood is going to be the key swinger here in terms of what it's aiming at.
But I think the current Quest is still a great headset. After a year, it's not. Yes. It doesn't need a replacement. So I just think it's going to be his little brother.
That's a great segue though into it. You said under the hood, like the little 2. We got to talk about the little 2. I don't know if that's in your lineup here, but we got to talk about the little 2 because there is some proper conspiracy behind this now.
It looked like IPD adjustment, some type of IPD adjustment that we've not seen before in other headsets. That's what it looked like, because it definitely looks like there's room for movement in the lenses. It doesn't look like the fixed lenses of the Rift S or the Go. There's gaps there.
You know what I think it is? I think it's moving the lenses back and forth.
Yeah,
Then I think that number
I-
2 makes a lot of sense for having
It's
an
nice.
IPD adjuster.
yeah, like eye relief.
It's
Yeah.
for glasses
That's great.
wearer.
Yeah, it's a smart theory. I
with
think
that.
you could be on the money
And
with
also
that.
because the dial, the knob seems to be vertical.
Yes.
If it was IPD, I would assume it to be more
the
horizontal.
other way around. Yeah, it would.
The
make
other
sense
thing
that way.
is that like this image is screaming at me, is binoculars. Those lens cups, the way that they're shaped, look like binoculars, and I think they're going for more of that kind of form factor, which is actually quite a difference with the current headsets for the last 3 or 4 iterations. It's very interesting what they're doing with the nose. I'm a guy with a big nose. I'm interested to see how this fits on my face because there is like a hard cutoff, and I'm just wondering, Rowdy's gotten screwed on the IPD thing when they did the Go and similar. I might be getting screwed on the nose part. Who knows? We'll see. Will my face fit this comfortably?
To not have an IPD adjustment in there, I don't think they want to go down the same route as Rift S, with locking people out of the headset because of the way that they were born and
Rift
their
S
eye spacing,
exists,
So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
The real question is, does it run Vertigo Remastered?
Well, it does via Oculus Link, and I think Oculus Link will still
That's
be
true.
supported with this headset.
That's true.
I've
It
seen
would,
some
it would
people-
be it would be hilarious if now Zach would be like, oh yeah, well I got one here.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know what you noobs are all talking about. I've actually got one.
Let's talk about the real thing.
That'd be funny.
It's purple.
Because we've talked about a lot of speculation and rumor, and of course this is all speculation and rumor right now. We just have these images.
It's a fun conversation.
It is fun. It is a fun conversation. But let's move on to some other news.
I'm sure we're right in some way. Okay,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we like what we got
Let's
here.
move on to
is
another
solid.
conversation.
one of us will be right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
But you
No,
guys
I
love
think
this, right? Like, I mean, this is the whole point. We got a podcast. Is like
Yeah.
the energy that you get from just these
Oh, yeah.
silly little news bits or any news of the industry. I'm just glad to see evolution because I feel like we've not had a lot in the last year, and
Yeah.
just after the Quest
Yeah, yeah.
dropped, this is great that we're now seeing some relatively concrete sources of the next thing.
But also, what I like about this podcast is that we can have a fair conversation between each other, but also ask some really good questions. Like not only what's the design, but also who is it for? We look at the history of what happened in the past, and I think based on that, you can make some really good indication of what it could be. So I think what we pulled off here. I'm biased because I'm in this podcast, but I
are biased.
loved it.
But it's great to have the conversation
No, yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Of course.
Poor Zach.
Okay, so enough Quest 2 for now. Let's move on and discuss some other news this week. And the first thing I want to talk about is Tetris Effect Connected. Now, this is a new edition of the game that was announced during the Xbox Game Reveal event this week, and it shows off an all-new multiplayer mode. So, as we know, the original Tetris Effect launched in November 2018, and originally the VR mode was exclusive to PlayStation VR. Then it launched on the Epic Games Store in July last year and supported PC VR headsets, like we mentioned at the beginning, using Steam VR. Then, a couple of months ago, the game launched on Oculus Quest, which is pretty great as it runs really well on the Quest, actually. And I think it's probably the best way to play the game. Just kick back in a really comfy chair and just get sucked in by the psychedelics and
Smoke some grass while playing it.
No. maybe that's what you do in the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting though that this game still hasn't launched on the Rift platform or on Steam VR, so it's just available through Epic Games on the PC side, and also obviously Quest and PlayStation VR.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But this new edition of the game, Tetris Effect Connected, Upload VR reached out to Enhance, the developers of the game, and they were able to confirm that the new Connected edition will be getting full VR support as well. So it's interesting, though, because they're kind of releasing it in a fragmented way. So the Connected edition will launch on its own this holiday and will come to PC via either Windows or Epic Games, and will support VR. And then you'll get an Xbox version, which of course won't support VR. So that'll be standalone. And then after the holiday, summer next year, if you bought the original game, you'll get the connected content as a free update for Quest, PC, and PC VR. So the kind of annoying thing here is that if you want the connected content, you have to buy the game again through the connected edition, unless you want to wait an extra 6 months for the summer release of the free
Why?
update to the base game.
Why?
I don't know. That's just the way it is.
Like, it's already a big step for people to even buy this game in the first place, and now they make it even harder.
Yeah. But are you guys interested in like a multiplayer Tetris in VR?
Hell yes.
Like,
yeah. I love Tetris Effect. In fact, like this week I had a day where I was sick, and one of the things I played was Tetris Effect on Quest, just because it's so easy to just, as you said, like trance and just get yourself, like whatever your physical condition is, you can just kind of like trance into the thing. And it's kind of competitive as well. I haven't even made it through the single player, but there's people I know who play it like regularly, and I can see why. It's great. But playing that multiplayer, especially from the teaser that they dropped, looks really cool. I mean, it reminds me of kind of Tetris 99. So I can't wait to get any Tetris multiplayer on.
Go on,
I
Reddit.
got a question though. Does it also not come as a free update for higher entities, or no?
What do you mean?
It's a Vertigo joke.
Oh, okay.
Vertigo.
Oh, right.
Okay. But yeah, you know, I think the key here is that if they can nail the social side, so if you can talk to your friends while you're playing, I think that's an important feature that should be there. Do you know what I mean? Because I think the idea of playing together, because there's co-op mode as well, and just chilling out and just chatting to your friends while you're kind of like both zoning out, I think that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. It's an interesting concept. I think multiplayer-wise, this could bring some really interesting experiences.
Yeah, but yeah, it's an interesting model, and like you say, it's kind of annoying in a way,
because
if you really want it, you have to buy it this holiday again, unless you can wait until the summer for the free update.
I'd love to see someone like Deadmau5 like do like a Tetris integration with one of his live acts, where he's got almost like a Twitch plays Pokemon thing, but he's either playing and controlling his audience then. I mean, you can see all kinds of weird evolutions and fork-offs because of the current situation we're in, and artists getting these ideas of like, how do I digitally still gather people and get them into that mode that they used to get in a live party? Like, how do I do that but from afar? And I'd love to see that in 5 or 10 years, some kind of live integration with Tetris. I mean, Tetris is such an insanely huge brand. I remember looking this up for the releases, and like the amount of copies they've sold, the amount of platforms they're on, it's a joke. It is insane.
It's huge.
Almost like Skyrim.
Yeah.
So that is Tetris Effect Connected coming out later this year. The Connected update will be free for all people that bought Tetris Effect originally on any VR platform next summer. So
it's good that you
Tetris
keep
Effect.
repeating it, because it's kind of confusing.
That is confusing.
Yeah, it is confusing. It is. I just wanted to talk about Star Wars Squadrons quickly as well. As it is one of the most anticipated VR supported games coming out this year, and this week we got some fresh gameplay shown online. YouTube channels such as Jack Frags, Game Informer, and many more had an exclusive look at the game and uploaded some fresh gameplay.
And
interestingly,
Mike as well? Mike Oasis?
No, not Mike Oasis. No, he didn't get to play the game, unfortunately. Maybe in the future, though. Maybe with the VR update, who knows? But from what I saw from the gameplay, it makes me even more excited for this game, as it definitely looks like it's airing on the simulation side of things rather than the arcade side of things.
Yep.
A lot of players during their gameplay sort of reveals said that controlling a ship is actually very difficult and has a steep learning curve, and the movement is completely unlocked as well. So something that we've hinted at before is that, this being a very intense VR experience, I think it's going to be very intense indeed. And although I think EA will be adding comfort features, I think this is going to be one for the VR veterans out there. But I think from the gameplay as well, you also see that not only do you have the pressure of controlling your ship in the right way, which is going to be challenging, but you've also got to manage your ship's power systems to get the edge over your competition. So you can actually adjust your shields, weapons, and engines on the fly to get the most out of your starship. So, you can boost your weapons, for example, to give it more of a punch against your enemy, but then it's going to make you vulnerable from a shield perspective.
It's a trade-off.
So you can like say these classic quotes to your friends, like, power to thrusters and...
Yeah.
But it's exactly, it is almost a copy-paste of the Elite Dangerous arena system and the Elite Dangerous ship model, which is that you have these kind of different factors that play off of each other. And it works really well. The thing is, in combat, once you get good at it, like, you're not paying attention to what you're doing. You're just flicking, you're just powering up your lasers before you fire them. You're hitting the shields when you're taking flak. Like, I think that the model and the number of ships that they talked about, and the fact that they've got cockpit modes, and the fact that they've got the ability for a flat gamer to look around the cockpit and trace a target, must be with like a keyboard combination and a mouse or something. Those all tell me that actually the ecosystem between like flat gamers and VR gamers is going to go down really well. The only
Yes.
part that concerns me is the availability. I love that first person is locked, like you have to be in the cockpit.
Yep.
But the part that concerns me is that you can switch off the cockpit. You can actually have a cockpit-free mode. And I wonder how that's going to go when it comes to competitiveness, and it might drive people to not have the cockpit on, which is kind of sad because they've got lovely detailed cockpits. And actually even player models. Like you can customize your player model, and I was really surprised at that. But that's something like in my Assetto Corsa nights, people always talk about not being able to see the driver, not being able to see, person turn their head. When you fly by somebody, like with some crazy dog roll or whatever, and you see the person like snap their head up at you, that's going to be a really special moment. The limitation in terms of the number of maps available and stuff on this, because I think there's only 6 when it's launching.
Oh god, here we go again.
Doesn't really concern me.
Oh my god.
Tell me,
There's
Michael.
not many maps, like you say. There's few, and there's only a couple of game modes. The most interesting, of course, is fleet battles, where 2 squadrons with AI players on both sides battle it out, and you've got your big starships on either side that you need to take down, which is going to be their sort of flagship mode. But yeah, it's looking exactly like it's going to deliver what we want from this game. Intense multiplayer, space combat. Obviously this is kind of Zim's bag. I'm really looking forward to this as well.
But it's still
go on.
an EA game, so you have been warned. Even with 6 maps, that's what I heard with Battlefield. That's what I heard with every like Battlefield would get some more maps too. They never got there. So EA is very good at, well, give me money and hey, bye, see you later.
I think it'll all depend on like how popular the game becomes, but like Zim mentioned, I think there's unlockables there. You can unlock skins, logos, trinkets for inside your ship, and even like a little Ewok bobblehead, which is kind of cool.
The little dancing Darth Vader for me was the thing that I when I saw that in Jack Fragg's video, I was like, oh my god, I'm so smitten. I want to go get that.
Mike wants a baby Yoda.
Like you mentioned it at the beginning, like this is not a game that's gonna tier itself towards arcade, and I was really concerned for that because I don't want more like flight combat that feels like No Man's Sky. Sorry, No Man's Sky, you don't do it quite right. Like I love the fact that they're doing what appears to be, they're going to give us a better version of what like Elite tried to do or Valkyrie tried to do with a really elite type system. The thing I want to know if it's there, is there the kind of trench run? Because once you get good at flying, is there any part of the mainstay ships where you can trench run? Because I want to be able to do that.
I don't think so. Although there is a single player which we didn't see any footage of, so that's going to be separate from the multiplayer. And of course, I'm also excited about that as well. But I think it's really cool that we got to see some gameplay, and I think it does confirm that it's going to be an intense game. So just bear that in mind. I think we've mentioned this before, but maybe some suggestions of games that people can play for getting up to speed with this game.
And wasn't it like Elite Dangerous was one of them?
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie
I think was another one.
Elite Dangerous Arena, which is a pretty dead game unless you have some people to go in with,
Deathmatch.
is inexpensive. It's like £6 or something, and it has the same flight style as this. In other words, you're pretty much on rails and you're going straight a lot of the time with banking and turning and the same kind of power systems. So if you want to prepare for squadrons, that's probably the best. If you want to get ready and check if your hot ass is good enough, like I'm planning to upgrade mine because it's not quite good enough. It doesn't have the right dead zones in that. I would say Valkyrie's good for just your perceptional awareness and sick stuff, like looking around and tracking targets. It's good for that, but that's mostly a ballerina dance in circles. So it's not the same kind of flight model.
Okay. What about you, Zach? Are you excited for Squadrons? Are you a bit of a space sim enthusiast or not so much?
Yeah, no, I love space games. I'm super hyped for it. It looks like really cool, intense fun. Definitely gonna pick it up.
And I imagine, like, being a dev, you've got your like rock solid VR legs. Like, can anything throw you off nowadays, or you're kind of invincible?
Yeah, I'm pretty invincible these days.
Good to hear it. Well, Star Wars Squadrons will be launching on the 2nd of October on PC, Xbox, and PS4. Of course, PC and PS4 will be getting VR support, although on launch, PC only will be getting HOTAS support. So sadly, PSVR won't on launch, but maybe coming later on. And one last thing before we get into talking to Zach about Vertigo. While we're on the subject of Star Wars, I just wanted to mention that we're going to be getting more information about the upcoming VR game Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge on the 28th of July, which is Tuesday next week. And this new VR game, again, comes from Oculus Studios in collaboration with ILM X Lab, who are responsible for the Vader Immortal series. So if you're interested, go and make sure that you follow them on social media. But snippets of information suggest that this new game will be an original story set between the events of Star Wars: The Last Jedi and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and will be coming out later this year. And, you know, just like the original Quest launched with Vader Immortal, what perfect timing for this game to come out than to launch with a brand new headset as well. So, you know, maybe it could be coming out this year, the new Quest, but who knows. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the new game and the details that drop just this week on next week's show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So now let's talk to Zach, because I'm sorry, Zach, that you kind of had to endure four fanboys
totally
harping off on the Quest. But let's talk about PC VR, and let's talk about Vertigo, and let's talk about Half-Life and all that good stuff. Because maybe you should kind of introduce yourself, Zach, and talk about what you're up to now, and maybe sort of go back a little bit into how you got into VR in the first place. Obviously, you talked about Scratch in the beginning, and how that kind of developed into, you know, your interest into VR.
Sure. So my name is Zach Chikalis Brown. I am 20 years old, and I'm a VR developer. I made Vertigo Remastered, working on Vertigo 2 now. Let's see. I first got into VR in 2012, 2013 with the Rift DK1. I tried it out. I did the what was that demo called?
Tuscany?
Like the original Rift demo. Yeah, the Tuscany demo.
Yeah.
And I was like, my mind was instantly blown. I was like, oh my god, I wanna make games. I wanna be inside my games
So you were
I'm inside this Tuscany demo.
13 years old then.
Jesus.
Yep. And I had no idea how to make games. I had done some Scratch stuff, but I didn't know any Unity or anything.
Wow.
So my dad got me Unity and threw some tutorials at me, and I got started making crappy little projects, and I haven't stopped making crappy little projects since.
So wow,
Yeah.
so this is kind of interesting, because you didn't go through a college or university learning about game development. It's something that you've completely self-taught?
Yeah, it's all self-taught in my spare time over a very long time period. Yeah.
And this is interesting, because this isn't the first time we've heard this on the show. When we've had developers on the show, we've talked about, you know, their education and, you know, advice for other people getting into game development. And they've always said, don't worry about education-wise, just go and try stuff, build stuff yourself, learn from, you know, the information that's available online, and go from there. So it's interesting that you kind of followed that path as well.
And also because, of course, yeah, for you it might seem like a very long time that you've been doing this, but I think seven years starting from your 13th is an amazingly short time considering the stuff that you've already delivered. So I think that's very inspirational for a lot of developers as well, that you can do something like that if you put your heart and soul into it. So very nice.
So when you made Vertigo, obviously it's been recently remastered. So you were 16 at the time. So how did that all come about? How did the idea for Vertigo come about, and how did that end up being launched on Steam, and the difficulties of doing that? Because it's no small feat getting a game on Steam, right?
Yeah. So that project took place over the course of about a year. The original prototype was this just a very early room scale VR prototype of mine, where you were on a bridge above a big deep pit, which is why it's called Vertigo. And I added in some little robots you could shoot, and it just kept growing and growing and growing until I ended up making a full single player story game. And I went through Steam Greenlight to get it on Steam, because that was the process at the time in 2015, or 2016. So when the game actually came out.
And what are some of the titles that you were inspired by in order to the games that you said that really drove you into development, or maybe even VR development? Which one would you?
It's really funny, because everybody sees the clear inspirations from Half-Life, but I actually had not played Half-Life at that time. So I was like, I love Portal. It's my favorite game.
Right.
What if there was Portal, but with aliens and guns? I didn't know Half-Life was a thing. So I started making Portal, but with aliens and guns. And then I learned Half-Life was a thing, and realized I'd made Half-Life.
That's
So-
epic.
Speaks to like
Half-Life.
how influential Half-Life is, that I didn't even have to play it to have its influence
Yeah.
like inspire an entire game.
Wow.
It's pretty nuts.
Well,
And
it's
how many
like
people-
it's like you mastered the art of like game design that Half-Life did, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
you make it as like, oh wait, it's pretty similar to that. That's
Yeah.
quite impressive. Yeah.
And how many people worked on the original Vertigo game other than yourself?
So it was mostly me. I was doing all the programming and like Unity sides of things. I had some friends that that were an amazing help on kind of writing the story, building the universe, doing lots of concept art. So it was my friend Errol Busey, who's a classmate of mine in school,
Yeah.
who did a lot of the writing and conceptual stuff, and then George, who is still working with me a little bit, who is a really talented concept artist and good friend of mine, and he's in the UK, so we met on the internet.
Nice. And also, all the music in the game, you write and make the music for the game as well, right? Which is pretty incredible. Like if you play the remaster, like I never played the original, but the soundtrack is incredible. So it's pretty amazing that you were able to pull that off and have an amazing soundtrack as well.
Thank you. Writing music is something I really like to do in my spare time, and it happens to be something that I can kind of include in my games
Kind of
really
sounds
well.
you have more spare time than anyone else I ever met. Like,
But how does it work? So when you make gameplay, right, and you make music, how does that like connect? Because
Usually I make the gameplay first, and then I'm like, what kind of music would go along with this? And then sometimes I'll like record some gameplay and like have it playing as I'm working on the music, so I
That's
can sync it up.
interesting. Yeah.
It's fun. It's
this is
very
the-
like creative,
what-
freeform process.
What exactly? How do you handle like being called a prodigy? Because I think you are one, and I think that like the fact that you've got sound design, graphic design, the programming side, game design, all this stuff sorted out. You weren't even 20. I mean, like that's a really good starting point. No wonder people like Valve picked up on you. But like, how do you deal with that? Like, is that like too much fame and kudos, or is it like that's all right? I got this. It's fine. I don't think too much of it. Like, how do you handle that kind of thing?
I mean, it's weird. I'm just me, you know. I've had a significant amount of privilege to get to where I am, and I don't know. As you said, like I have a lot of free time to kind of learn these skills, and I have my dad has been super helpful, kind of guiding me along this path.
Does he work in computer science or something, or like how did you
yeah, so
spawned
he's-
into this area of work? I'm curious.
He's been kind of all over the industry. He was on the original Xbox team. He was like really
Wow.
influential in creating the Xbox. He named it the Xbox. He's very proud of that.
Oh, sweet, Jesus.
That's an
It's pretty
awesome
rad.
story, dude.
Yeah. And then he did a bunch of startups for a while, and then he worked at Valve for a bit, which is how I got my in at Valve. I like followed him to work occasionally, and then other people at Valve like saw what I was doing and were like, "Hey, do you want to like make some prototypes for us?"
How was that for you, being a fan of like the Portal game, like you said, like that you all of a sudden were employed by
Yeah.
a company that you looked up to? That must be amazing, especially. at-
Yeah, it was amazing. Of course it was. Yeah, it was amazing to like meet the people that had made this game that I love so much, and to see how they worked and work with them. Yeah, it was.
Something that I noticed in Vertigo, like I said, I didn't play the original. I just played the remaster. But you play like a black girl, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
was that always the idea from in the original game? Because it's quite like we don't see much diversity in games, or we see more nowadays. So it's kind of interesting to have that as a concept for a game that was like 4 years old. Was that the original idea?
In the original, your character was kind of genderless, and you could pick your skin tone. So I really wanted to
Right.
keep it kind of like, I wanted it to just be you.
Yeah,
Like just create your own character, whatever.
sure.
And then as I was like leading into building Vertigo 2, I was like, hey, it might be good if I actually, gave this character an identity.
Yeah.
So a female friend of mine. I had her like redesign the character. I was like, I need a character. I'm not good at making characters up. So she came up with the new character. Sonia is her name.
I think it's great. I think it's really, really cool, especially, you know, for other people out there to see, you know, a character representing themselves in a game. I think that's super, super smart, and it's really interesting. So like, how did it go from Vertigo to then sort of your relationship with Valve? Because you said obviously your dad sort of had an in there with Valve.
Yeah.
Did they sort of see the game, or were you sort of had an in with Valve before the original game actually launched?
Yeah, it was during development of the original Vertigo in 2016 that I started just like hanging out at Valve occasionally. Like I said, just following my dad to work, and I would just like work on my own projects while I was there. Awesome. The original Vertigo demo, people were like super excited about it because it had the, you know, really fun tentacle boss fight, and there's like nothing like that in VR in those days.
Yeah.
So like some people at Valve picked up on that, I guess. And then it was kind of during the development, the early development of the Knuckles controllers or the Index controllers, as they're now known as.
Yeah.
That I really started to get involved at Valve, because they were like, we have nobody prototyping content for these controllers. Like, we have a big hardware team that basically everybody that was making games was working on early iterations of Half-Life Alyx at that point, and they were not really in a place to like explore what could be done with Index controllers. So they brought me on to kind of play with interactions, and I made like a really early developer demo that went out to some developers, but I don't think it ever went public. Or maybe it's on GitHub, who knows? And then that led to a year or two later, Moondust, of course, which is slightly more public. And yeah, I mean, that was just so cool to work on these like cutting edge VR interaction, VR hardware type stuff.
Yeah,
you did a great job with that as well. And also because if we're talking about like the Knuckle controllers or the Valve Index controllers, the integration that you did within the Vertigo 2 demo was amazing. And I actually, the thing, because I don't have those controllers, what I have is and I think Zim as well, we have the Oculus controllers. But I have to say, the integration that you did, especially in the Vertigo 2 demo, of the Index style kind of feeling that you get with the Oculus controllers, it is the best one that I've seen in a single Oculus title so far.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another one. Maybe Half-Life Alyx, but of course you had an in that as well. So I think that the way that you did the Oculus controllers, how it's integrated in the Vertigo 2 demo, is it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. Yeah, that's like a big part of the Steam VR input system, the like hand skeletal animation system. Is like making that work really well with all the controllers, and that's something I was involved in.
And it's kind of interesting.
You don't see that in a lot of games.
Yeah, and like I've been reading through like Half-Life Alyx: The Final Hours. I don't know if you've read it yourself, from Jeff Keighley.
I haven't read all of it, but I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to read through the story at Valve. You know, they were going through a difficult time where they didn't ship any products, and you know, a lot of teams internally were working on a lot of different projects, but none of them really took off. And then you've got you that are kind of like dipping in and out of Valve and like shipping your own game at like 16. It must be kind of interesting. So it's, you know, it's no wonder they took you on board. But what was the kind of brief for you when they took you on board, like particularly with like Moondust and maybe the lab and even Half-Life Alyx to a certain degree? Was it the hand interactions that they really wanted you to focus on, or was it other aspects of the game as well?
Yeah, the hand interactions was the main thing. Like they needed people that were able to take their hardware and just like create interesting software to go along with it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because they were, you know, having so much trouble with shipping stuff internally. They were like, okay, screw it, let's just have this kid do it for us. Yeah, we can ship stuff.
That's so cool.
I will say that it's my specialty, is like actually shipping stuff. You know, making small projects
Yeah.
not being too afraid to put them out there.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a
but
question on that, actually? Just
go on. Zim.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so time management, I talked about it earlier, right? But one of the secrets I always think as someone who's really good at something is you're able to not like let the train run away with you. Do you have any tips for other devs who are starting and just finding, spinning all the things that you seem to do and again make appear effortless? How do you chunk that out? Like, do you say 20% on music, 30% on game design? What do you eat for breakfast? What are the simple things that you would recommend other developers if they're starting out?
Well, I don't exactly have like a hard and fast strategy on that. And I definitely suffer from the classic like feature creep as well. My projects will end up going a lot longer than intended. Like Vertigo Remastered, that was supposed to be like 3 or 4 months. It ended up being 6 months working on that. But at a certain point, you really have to go like, okay, I need to ship this at some point. So I ended up locking down my shipping date for Vertigo Remastered to July in like, I don't know, April or March. From that point forward, it was just like, okay, I'm gonna have to cut this feature. I'm gonna have to cut this section. Like, tough luck.
Yeah.
Because
it's hard to do that as a game developer because like everything feels like your baby. But
yeah, because you're saying like I'm good at shipping, and I was like laughing a little bit, but that is a big deal because you work on it for so long, and then there needs to be a moment where you need to put it out. Is that something when you speak to other developers, that they are scared of shipping? It's a big deal. I totally get it. How do you deal with like, how do you pull the trigger where you're like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just launch it now. Let's just go for it and hope for the best.
I mean, there comes a point whenever you ship anything that you have to say that, like, it's not perfect, but you have to get it out there. I know like Valve went through that. They were super scared and nervous as they talked about in the final hours to ship Half-Life Alyx. But at a certain point, they just had to say, okay, we gotta wrap this up. We gotta get it out there.
So do you like to have that pressure of like working to the final parts of a game, or are you more like, if I have like some time to properly and
I wouldn't say I like that pressure, but it's definitely productive. When you're working with a deadline,
puts the fire underneath your bum and you have to get it done, sort of thing. Yeah.
And especially when it's like a imminent deadline. It's not a deadline like 2 years out. It's like, okay, in 2 months this has to be done. So what do I have to do to get it to that point then?
Yeah. Certainly.
Did you afterwards were invited to go for drinks with Lord Gaben?
No.
Have you met Gabe though?
Yeah, a few times. He's been around. Yeah. I got to demo Moondust to him when I finished that. That was really fun.
Oh wow!
Wow, that must have been like like highlight of your life. Like meeting such a legend.
Yeah.
I bet you must have been super nervous doing that, or were you kind of like brushing it off, kind of chill about it?
Yeah, I was nervous, but at the end of the day, it's just another VR demo.
Yeah.
So to kind of what, like, you worked on Moondust, you worked on the lab, also Half-Life Alyx. So is there, let's say it's gonna sound funny, average Joes, I need to think about the Joes every time I say that for some reason. but can you like point out what you made exactly? In terms like, is there an example, like let's say in the lab or in Moondust, like what did you make exactly?
Sure. So Moondust, it was I did like the majority of Moondust, all the art, a lot of the like cool like hand interactions and animations, all of that was my work, and then
so the
ended
squeezing,
up
for example, like
yes,
squeezing into a grenade, or is it also the same for Half-Life Alyx where you have the Xen grenade and you squeeze
that was inspired by Moondust.
And also, like, I remember you sharing that tweet where you push the button, the physical interaction that you get from that. Is that also something that you did?
I can't remember what the tweet was, but yeah, I made the buttons in the new version for the lab that I worked a long time on making those really satisfying.
And certainly
I think it's that.
From playing like Vertigo Remastered, you see the similarities in like the input method and like the weapon selectors and stuff like that from like Half-Life Alyx. Was that heavily inspired by Vertigo? That kind of like weapon selection?
Partly, yeah, that kind of weapon wheel type, move your hand into the weapon, because that's Vertigo had that originally, and it worked really well. And there have been a few games that do that. I think like Hover Junkers was one of the really early games to do that type of weapon select. I like it a lot. It's my fafavorite kind of weapon select. I'm really happy.
Obviously, you said previously that like you hadn't played Half-Life, and you kind of like made a very Half-Life inspired game without ever playing it. But when you was like sort of brought on board to work on Alex, were you then like, okay, now I need to go back and I need to play these games, I need to understand the story more, the world, and everything else?
Yeah, after I started working at Valve, I definitely was like, oh, I should probably go play Half-Life.
Great.
I got never brought officially onto the Alex team, just so that's clear.
Sure.
I was just working on Moondust in the lab, and they occasionally, like, somebody from the team would come to me and we would chat about like input or throwing, like getting throwing physics feeling good. That kind of stuff.
And how did you
we can't miss that. We can't miss a big question here.
Okay, go for it.
Rowdy, you take the chat question first.
No. There's. I said there's a lot of questions. It's just
for later.
We need to reserve a bit of time.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask one thing. You played
go.
Half-Life. Did you like it?
Yeah, I think I liked it even more than Portal. I'm a hardcore Half-Life fan now.
And were there any parts of Half-Life or Half-Life 2 that you played, I suppose Half-Life Alex can come in there as well, where you thought like, I did that bit better, or I should have picked that up, if I had only played this first? Anything like that?
I don't know.
It's a hard question, I know.
Yeah. Not off the top of my head.
Or do you have a favorite moment in Alex?
What?
Or do you have a favorite moment in Alex? Something that you thought was super cool?
Favorite moment? Well, I really like Jeff. I mean, everybody really likes Jeff. But yeah, that chapter was like one of the best horror experiences I've ever had playing it the first time.
Awesome.
Incredible.
And a lot of people in the chat are talking about ladders because the ladders in Vertigo Remastered. I have to say there's some of the best ladders I've ever tried because But playing Boneworks, a big complaint of mine was the ladders because they had this like awful head bob, and then getting off the ladders was super awkward. But in Vertigo Remastered, and I guess it will happen again in Vertigo 2. When you climb the ladders, you almost like snap to the gantry or whatever you're climbing up to, and it feels very natural, and you have confidence in the system that you're not going to fall. But that's kind of hard to implement, right?
I wouldn't say it's super hard to implement. It was kind of a hard design problem to think about, like, okay, how do I make the ladder work how you want it to work 100% of the time, or 99% of the time. But the actual implementation wasn't too bad.
Okay.
There's stuff like minimizing the springiness because you are like having to use physics to move the player to get them to not pass through walls, but kind of making it less springy and annoying as Boneworks is a little bit much
springy
of that.
and annoying. Yeah. Maybe we should take some questions from the chat then. Have we got some?
I just wanted to say one more thing. Well, two things actually, since we were talking about Vertigo Remastered, and something that I still want to highlight, and I know Mike highlighted in a tweet as well. First off, is that you see your arms. There's not a lot of VR games that actually do that. Was that a specific design choice, or is that something that you think more VR games should do? Because I've heard a lot of people say because you need to use some kind of inverse kinematics, it starts to look a little bit more goofy or a little bit more arcadey. But you seem to have nailed that pretty well. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I like arms quite a bit. When they work well, as I feel like I've made them work pretty well. They don't distract too much. They, I don't know. I don't like get my immersion super broken by there not being arms, but I feel like
because Half-Life Alex doesn't have it. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah, I don't feel like I've ever had my immersion broken in Half-Life Alex by not having arms. The rest of that universe is just so incredible.
Yeah. And then the second thing I wanted to say as well is that the camera input features that you had in the original Vertigo and Vertigo Remastered now as well is maybe some of the best that we've seen in VR games. like, do you realize how important that is do you do that for like content creators in order to make better content, or is there another specific reason why because you clearly spend a lot of time on like making the game look nice on a flat monitor or on a recording software device? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. So what that was is actually, that's just my internal tools for recording trailers, exposed to let content creators take advantage of it. So obviously making the trailers, I had to do some work to get it to look nice and run nice on flat monitors so I could record.
Could you do that for all developers? Like,
there are some like mobile tools, like Live is trying to make like content creation a lot more friendly. But yeah, it's tough because I know like Half-Life, Valve did a much more kind of hands-on approach to making their trailers, where they like recorded gameplay and then they would like play it back not in real time, so they could like really smooth it out. And that's not viable for content creators. But my approach happened to be, which was take this pretty kind of not very graphically intensive game and render it a second time with a really nice, smooth, high definition camera.
Yeah.
I think the great thing about what you implemented was that you could, as a content creator, you could sacrifice the view that you were actually looking at inside the headset to make it look good on a video. And it's something that we've done historically in the past. You know, Nathan and I suffered through playing Marvel Powers United with one eye just so we could increase the field of view so it looks nice on a video. And I think, you know, for you to understand that mindset is super important, and a lot of other developers can certainly learn from that, I think.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and again, that's just my my trailer creation mindset, because I also, you know, I had to make a nice 60 frames per second trailer, and to do that I had to, you know, make some sacrifices. So.
But it's good that you are aware of that. What you make should also be looked at like a proper way, because there are developers who make amazing games, but then when they put out a trailer or they let people play it, it just doesn't look that great. So it's good that you know how people are going to look at your game, because, you know, the better the field of view, the smoother the camera, the better it represents what you made in the end. And it would be a shame if all those work hours are gonna be in the left corner of the gameplay that someone is doing, you know.
All right, I'll go over some of the questions maybe.
Yeah, sure.
There's quite a few. First, we had Paradise Decay. He said, "I would like to know if you have any plans for Vertigo to come to the Quest."
Well, that would be incredible. I would love to ship it on the Quest. I don't know how realistic that is, just as a single-man team. I would have to do a lot of porting over to the Oculus SDK to support that, and probably some optimization too. So short answer, I would love to, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. And then we have a couple of questions that you already answered. We had VRBug asking, how did you get involved with Valve? But you already talked about that one. We also had a question from Jan Chan, who said, did Zach develop all of Vertigo solos, such as the animations, character models, gameplay, etc.? But you briefly commented on like, I don't know if you want to say anything more about that. But I believe you already.
Yeah, most of the like actual what you'd consider game development was solo, but then a bunch of the, you know, universe building, world building, concept art and planning was done with some friends.
Yeah, all right. Then we have Max Fernandez saying, Zach, when is Vertigo 2 coming out? Pressure, pressure, pressure.
I know, so much pressure. No release date yet, but I'll let you guys know as soon as I know.
I want to extend on that question. It's like it's kind of mad to me that you went Vertigo, all the other projects that you were involved with, decided to shoehorn in Vertigo Remastered with the kind of commitment there to Vertigo 2. Like, do those not kind of get carnivorous off of one another and end up, you know, oh, I should be working on that one, but I've got to ship this one? Has that been difficult in the last kind of year for you?
Yeah, it has, and the last year has been complicated, as I'm sure it has been for a lot of people. You know, I started college last fall, and then I left college because of the pandemic in spring. So now I'm back to making games full time for now. It's been weird and chaotic, but you know, as long as I'm making games, I'm happy.
That's
nice.
awesome.
Good on you.
That's awesome.
We had VRBug asking, what headsets does Zach own and what is his favorite and why?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. My favorite is definitely the Valve Index, and that is not because I'm a former Valve employee. I love that headset so much. The comfort is so good. As someone that like needs to be in headset all day, it is very nice that it actually
And
feels
then, are
good.
there any other ones that you own as well, or is that the one?
Yeah, I got a Quest right here. I've got a Rift CV1 somewhere packed up, I think. I have a WMR that just crapped out, unfortunately. It's a display cable. And I have a Vive somewhere that I haven't used in years.
That suffices, I think. Then we have D1360 VR. What programming language should we focus on for Unity VR?
Definitely C# for Unity.
C#. All right. The VR vibe kind of extended on that question as well. What did you use to learn how to code and create VR games, and what type of codes do you have to use to make a VR game? You already discussed Sharp and Scratch and C#. Is there anything else that you would recommend?
I don't know. I feel like Unity is a great option for making VR games at the moment. There are a lot of tutorials out there, a lot of resources.
Yeah, of course. And then a final one that I noted down was from Chris Richardson, who asked, does Zach have any thoughts about melee combat? Has he tried Saints and Sinners?
I have not gotten a chance to try Saints and Sinners. I'm not super into melee combat personally, but I know a lot of people are. So I did spend some time making that feel good in Vertigo Remastered. And yeah, I'd be down to play Saints and Sinners at some point.
You should.
That's so interesting, because just like you said before, you didn't play Half-Life, before. It's like you just know the art of how to make proper video game. Because the thing is, with a lot of developers that I spoke to in the past, a lot of them are playing a lot of games to kind of understand what's going on. They play Saints and Sinners to understand why it's so popular and why the melee combat is so good and stuff like that. But you seem to be able to just in your head create something and test it out, and it just comes to life by itself. And I think that's very special, I would say. Something that
it's a very charitable way to say I don't do my research, but thank you.
No, but
it's natural talent, I think. He's trying to say,
no, that's what I'm saying. And also that's the thing that I love about you, is that when I played Vertigo in 2016, I thought it was one of the best games I've ever played. And then years later, even when it was not even remastered yet, it was still holding up as one of the best titles out there. In my opinion, it could have always had more attention from the community, and hopefully with remastered, that will kind of sparkle a little bit more. But that's something that most developers are not able to. A lot of the games that we are now talking about, like those games from 2016, they didn't age well, but Vertigo Remastered is aging very well, actually.
And I've got a question about that, actually. So, obviously you're working on Vertigo 2, the sequel to Vertigo, but why did you choose to remaster the original game? Like, why didn't you just leave it in its original form? Like, what was the rationale in your mind to refresh it?
Well, it unfortunately had a bunch of major bugs that were kind of stopping people from enjoying it as much as I feel like they could be.
Okay.
And also seeing how much progress my systems have made since Vertigo 1 into Vertigo 2, and some of the new fancy stuff that I was building for Vertigo 2. I was just it seems like it would be fairly little effort for a giant payoff of having this really great remastered version of the game.
Yeah.
So I just went for it. And it seems like I definitely made the right choice with that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Having played it now, and because I played the Vertigo 2 demo first, then I played Vertigo Remastered. Now I seem to understand the story more, which is great. And I think that's the reason why you should go back and play the remaster. Not only is it a great game, but you'll understand the story going into the sequel. But to sort of wrap this sort of interview up and Q&A up, and I really appreciate your time, by the way. It's been super interesting to find out about your development history. Beyond Vertigo 2, what have you got planned for the future? Would you ever consider returning to Valve, or is college your next big step, or you got another career planned? What's the future like in your mind?
At the moment, I have no idea what the future is going to be like. I know I want to keep working on Vertigo 2. It was amazing working at Valve. I would certainly be happy to go back there someday. It'd also be fun to work with some other smaller studio, maybe not just me though. So yeah, I'm gonna keep weighing my options and trying to figure out what's best.
I don't think you'll be short of offers, that's for sure. After the community sees what you've managed to achieve in Vertigo Remastered and the sequel, which is obviously coming soon as well. So
we as the VR scene are very happy that you're making these games, and also that I think that the games you have made so far are also speaking to the mainstream gamers, because Vertigo is like, wow, man. This is what I wanted for a while. It's a higher standard that is just not as just let's say the normal games that come out. It's like something that I would really like. I would be like, okay, let's turn off Rocket League, let's turn off GTA or something else I'm playing, and let's play some Vertigo, 1 or 2, because it really speaks to the gamers out there, and I think that's like something that is pretty special.
Yeah. One last thing I'd say is probably just on education is I know you're just going through university stuff now, but consider where you are and as achieved as you've gotten, and the number of things that you think you seem to be doing very well. Teaching others, have you ever considered maybe kicking off something like an apprenticeship in your 20s, helping to get other budding, bright young people along in the path? I think you could do a lot of good for the broader industry. Obviously, you've only got one pair of hands, unfortunately, and it's great to see that effect span. So I hope you consider that for your future at some point, Zach.
Yeah, good suggestion. Well, thank you again, Zach, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. But now let's sort of pivot and dive straight into releases with Zim, as I know we're running on a little bit, and I appreciate
one more thing.
Everyone's
Link
super
to
busy.
Vertigo 2 is in the description, so if you want to play it on Steam, go check it out. It's a demo, and also a link to Zach's website, so if you want to learn more about what he's doing, what he did in the past, or if you want to grab some sweet-ass Vertigo merchandise.
Is there really merchandise? I didn't see that.
Yeah, there is merchandise too.
I've made some merch.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just want that. I want that Zulubo
In your spare
production.
time, you mean?
Yeah, spare time.
Yeah.
That's got to be in the trailer. I made the Vertigo 2. I made this in my spare time.
You should. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a great tagline. All right, releases. So then, shall we? Do the dastardly dance. Now, thankfully, this week, like the last 3 or 4 weeks, I seem to be getting the short straw on time, but that's fine because we don't have too much out this week, which is good. I wanted to start off with something inspired by our own Rowdy guy and another type of guy. This is going to be Suicide Guy. So don't get any ideas, Rowdy. I know you've been hanging out at the pool. All right. So for $6 or $4.41 on Steam, PSVR landed on the 24th of July from Fabio Ferreira, who's the dev behind this one. This is part of the Chubby Pixel Games saga, and this is a very odd idea for a game. So basically in this, you're in this guy's dreams, and you're trying to break out. How do you have to break out of the dreams? Well, it's kind of in the title, right? So in Suicide Guy VR, this is not for the faint-hearted. It's a first-person action puzzle game like no other, where you have to find the way out of your own dreams using objects and tools you'll obtain during the nap. I think this is a very bizarre and amazing looking title. I had not heard of this series before. There is a whole string of related games, actually, that are non-VR and a couple of other VR titles. So I recommend to go check out Chubby Pixel Games.
I think they should really change the title, though. That feels so wrong.
It is not a politically correct title, I think.
Maybe they should go for something like Wreck-It Ralph in VR.
Yeah.
Like,
the hands look like the...
Yeah. Plus, they've even got the goose in there, like
the goose,
from Untitled Goose Game with the bell and everything.
They do.
That's what sold me on this. So
it just looks like such a concept. I'm with Rowdy, though. I think the title probably could have been a little bit more politically correct, even though I don't like being politically correct. I think they might, if they haven't already, they might get themselves into some trouble with that. But it's a fun concept.
You cut out there.
I was just saying I think it's a fun concept. I think it's something that I would certainly pick up for a $5. That's not too bad at all. So there you go. Yeah, we had one or two times actually this cast where it cut a little bit. So if you're watching little bits a bit snipped out, I don't know what that is, but it's something with the cast. So thank you. Next up, this is a re-release on a different platform. If you speaking of killing, I suppose have you seen either John Wick 2 or John Wick 3, then you'll be ready for this game, which of course you all know what I'm talking about here. Pistol Whip is finally landing on PlayStation. So for the fine price of $25 or £20, I think now, particularly with the content that's loaded in Pistol Whip, you're getting plenty for your money. Pistol Whip, if you don't know what it is, it's a rhythm shooter where you're dodging incoming bullets from armies of troops who are trying to take you down, and you've got, in a single controller, a pistol, and you can pistol whip your enemies to the beat. It's a really cool game that inspires a fantastic, very Hollywood feel from your core, and is quite a good exercise experience. So if you haven't experienced Pistol Whip yet, you're there hugging your PlayStation, hoping for more content. Cloudhead Games have you sorted on the 28th of July. There you go for that one. All right. I do wonder how it's going to compare. How do you guys think the tracking is going to do on PlayStation?
Oh,
I think it's not really that big of an issue because if there's like some kind of like auto aim going on anyway that you can turn on or off. I don't think that will be it.
Yeah, thankfully it's not as demanding as like a Beat Saber, so I think they'll be all right.
Well, every time you're like, this is on the PlayStation VR, it's gonna suck, and then you play the next thing, and you're like, oh wow, it's amazing. It's the same with Iron Man. I'm like, I can never shoot a drone with these hands. They're gonna go, and it just works. It's magic, man. It's magic.
Yeah, I know they've been really killing it. Although I have to say, I've recently been thinking maybe I'll sell my PSVR now. Maybe it's kind of getting towards the end of its life. I might. I don't know. The worst part would be the console if I had to get rid of it. But let's see how we go. I'm in the mode of trying to lighten the load, Nathy, before moving to Canada.
No, instead of turning it into a museum. No, I understand.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Limited space.
VR museum.
So again, another title, Rudy 2D point and shooty by Downpour Entertainment. You guys know this one. Onward. Rowdy certainly does. $25. Again, £20. Become fully immersed in a firefight. Experience a first-person shooter as you never have before. Onward combines milsim gameplay with the experience of playing in VR. Really the first FPS that did it proper and did it justice. Players cannot rely only on crosshairs or mini-maps, but instead of real communication with your squad. And if you're sick of getting teabagged in Call of Duty, why not come to VR and play a real man's game? Make Dante proud. Enlist today. This is coming to Quest. So Onward on Quest, I think, is just another one along the lines of Contractors. It had to be, and it's now going to be available. As of the 30th of July, Onward, for you Quest FPS friends, this is something you can look forward to.
It's very welcome. I'm starting to get used to ported games on Quest now. It's almost like there's nothing coming out anymore. Well, it's great though, but you know what I mean?
Quest, I think this is a fantastic title to come to Quest.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I just like the nicest thing about Quest compared to the other headsets, particularly for Onward, specifically for Onward, is proning isn't a problem. And proning in that game before with a big machine gun, with the stock out and everything, it can be a problem when your feet play the dance of death with a cable and you're trying to go down and get up again and not yanking it so it's not pulling your head. So I'm really glad for Dante and the team at Downpour to finally get that one out. I know we've been teasing it for about 6 months. Now you can finally get your hands on it on the 30th. The final thing I'm going to mention...
No cable is going to be awesome.
No cable is, definitely. I mean, I'm curious actually, Zach. I know Index is your daily driver. What brings you to Quest? Like, what do you play on your Quest?
I don't play too much on my Quest, honestly. I mostly use it for testing, like making sure my game works with Oculus Link.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I assume that's what the Windows MR headset was for, just compatibility testing? Yeah.
Most of my headsets are for.
Only need the one. Makes sense. Sell some indexes just there. All right. The last thing I'll mention is Dreams, which I know, Mike, you checked out this week as well. So Dreams is, I wanted to highlight this, because if you were looking at it, two things. Number one, there's a demo. You can actually go and play a demo, which is important. The second thing is the price. Temporarily, for PS Plus owners, there's a 30% discount, which actually discounts Dreams quite a bit. So from last week's VR update, you can get it instead of the normal price £35 if you're on PS Plus. For other things, £25. So pretty good deal for those of you looking to get into some dreams. And that's it for this week. Short and sweet. I kept my promise. Back to Mike.
Nice one. Well, we're running on a little bit, so we'll wrap up the show. So just a reminder, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. Don't forget, you can also catch the audio version available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. Make sure you hit the like button if you've enjoyed the show and you've liked having guests like Zach on the show. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for all our future content. Next week, we're going to be having more details about Star Wars, Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. And we're also going to have a guest on the show, VR time machine inventor, Lucas Risotto, as our guest. So make sure you stay tuned for that. It's going to be an interesting show. I just want to say thank you again to Zach for taking some time out of his incredibly busy schedule. He says he's got lots of free time, but I'm sure he doesn't really. It's been really insightful to learn more about developing Vertigo and your time with Valve as well. So really, really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone tuning in. We really appreciate you all. And for you that are listening to the audio version as well, we love you as well. So until next week, have a great week in VR. Take care and bye-bye for now. See you later.
Everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.